gets open for three. Dagger!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Well Beyond the Arc. I'm Manoli.
And I'm Montana.
And we are airing episode number 26. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been meaning to do this for weeks, but we're finally going to get into the NBA's top duos tonight. Montana, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. We've been talking about this duos thing for a minute, so it's good to finally just make it the title of the show, so we have to get to it.
All right, so it's something that we've both been looking forward to for a while, so we're not putting it off any longer. We're gonna jump right into it. But before that, housekeeping note as usual. If you haven't done so already, help us out. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for us. We are part of the Yankee and the Brit Sports Group. We very much appreciate you guys liking the video. Subscribing to our channel, not just see the Well Beyond the Arc NBA podcast, but a number of great podcasts on the Yankee and the Brit Sports Group. So make sure you hit that. You'll find out when we're on, in addition to all of the different other podcasts on the network. So hit that subscribe button. So Montana, I know you're in a good mood because your Lakers got a couple wins since we last talked. So let's just jump right into state of our squad before we get to the duos. Montana, the floor is yours to rant about your Lakers.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously they're starting to look better as an entire team. They pieced some good wins together. I'm not super impressed. It was, the Spurs, it's not super impressive wins, but they started piecing some wins together and looking like a more complete team. But the player that needs the biggest shout out is Anthony Davis. He's been on a tear.
Yes,
now,
he has.
Still plenty of worries about injuries, and he's gone down again. He goes down about every game. It's kind of his routine now. Most players have a pregame routine. He has an in the middle of the game routine, and that's getting injured. But it's, it is what it is. He's looking better. LeBron's back. But my biggest concern right now is actually LeBron's health over AD's health, because I think LeBron is really starting to show some of his age. And how could you not? He's been at this for a minute. And when he's on the court, he looks really good. The problem is he's been off the court more than he's been on the court, in my opinion, this season. So hoping he can stay healthy and kind of get that going. But as a whole team, I think this looks like a team that can get well above 500. I do think this is a team that has a little bit more of a journey before they're a team that looks like a top 10, top 8 in the Western Conference. But I think they can achieve that. I think they can achieve it by January. I really think they can be in that playoff picture by the time we get to I think they'll at least be in the play-in picture by January. So wow. I'm really happy, and I'm repping the jersey. I had this whole plan if they won last night to really be extremely, electric right now, but they lost, and that was kind of a wake-up call. So pretty happy, but not extremely happy.
They look better than they did. I'll give them credit. And the man whose jersey you're wearing, I believe you're wearing AD's jersey.
Oh, yeah.
That guy has been balling. I think he's been averaging something crazy, about like 32 points and almost 20 rebounds a game over his last 5 games. Even doing that without LeBron, the Lakers getting a couple wins without LeBron. But yeah, like you said yesterday, I mean, that game winner against with the Pacers, beating them there at the last second with our favorite rookie.
Blowing that lead too. They had a 17-point lead going into the fourth, I'm pretty sure. They
17-point lead in the fourth, I think. I think at one point they were up 101-84, and then they ended up losing at the buzzer, which is painful. But our favorite rookie, the guy with our favorite rookie name, Benedict Mathurin, he was quoted early in the season, or before the season started, after he was drafted, saying, hey, LeBron James has to prove that he's better than me. Mathurin bested him on this night, outscoring LeBron 23-21, but it was his teammate getting that game winner at the buzzer. But hey, good for your Lakers. They're looking better. What are your thoughts on the comments made that, from Bleacher Report, that is, that the Lakers think they're only like a player or two away from really competing? I mean, I think every NBA team is a player away from or two from competing, but what's your take on that?
I think they're there. I don't think it's a player or two. I think they're there. I think they can compete. And I don't think we're going to get I don't know. I don't think we're going to get Turner. I don't think we're going to get some of those players that we thought we might get. I don't think we're going to go for a Miles Turner, because Westbrook is starting to fit in, and not just fit in. He's starting to stand out and look like a really, really, really solid player. This is the role he should have been in the whole time. So I think they're there. I don't think it's we need more players. I think we just need more consistency, and we need to not blow 17-point leads in the fourth. So I don't think it's going to take more players. I think it's just going to take more time for us to really gel and figure the system out.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm still on that train of the Lakers trading Westbrook for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. Maybe not as strongly anymore. You know, who knows? Maybe our next pitch is going to be making T-shirts for Russell Westbrook as Sixth Man of the Year. Who knows?
There we
Well,
go.
Lakers had a good week or two here. My Bulls drive me nuts, despite the fact they've won 3 of their last 4. They're driving me nuts. They had a little bit of a lull where we had a 5-game losing streak, but they have won 3 of their last 4, and those 3 of the last 4 wins have come against the NBA's best. We beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee, beat Boston, which the Chicago Bulls are 2-1 against Boston, who is 17-4 right now. Don't ask me how that's happened. Who knows? Maybe we've got them 3 times on the second game of a back-to-back. I have no idea, but they'll beat those teams, but then they'll turn around and lose to San Antonio, like you said. They've lost to OKC, which was that one loss in the last 4 games, in overtime, which they shouldn't have even been down in that game. We've lost the Orlando Magic at home. You know, this team has the ability to beat great teams, but what they're lacking is that hunger and fire that they had last season. They're not defending anybody. You have Andre Drummond supposedly leaking word to the press that he thinks that the Bulls are under 500 because Nikola Vucevic is at center, which they're not getting rid of Nikola Vucevic, not yet. I don't know. It's a very frustrating team to watch sometimes. Some days it's beautiful to watch, but we're 9-11, sitting outside of the playoff picture right now. Still a lot of season left. The news is encouraging week by week on Lonzo Ball, who is just proving by being out and the Bulls struggling at times that he's more of the glue. I can't believe I'm saying that Lonzo Ball appears to be more of the glue than what we thought for this Bulls team. And I hope folks aren't looking at it as him being the savior. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to get back in. By the time he's played, he hasn't played in about a year. So either way, still okay. They're still hovering around 500, but they're driving me nuts in the process. So we shall see. Well, folks, as a reminder, make sure if you guys have comments, questions, put it in the chat. Jay will put it up on the board for us. We're still waiting for that comment of the day. We're 10 minutes in. We've had a couple times where we've had the comment of the day in the first 10 minutes. So we're challenging you guys to be part of the show. Crack us up. Get us to crack up mid-sentence here. But also, we're curious to see your questions and what you guys have to say about what we have to say. But let's get right into what we've been looking forward to for a while now, Montana, and that's the NBA's best duos. And there was a while, maybe about 10 years ago, when LeBron and Chris Bosh joined Dwayne Wade in Miami, and the Boston Celtics had Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. That the en vogue thing to do in the NBA was to make teams with 3 superstars, to have a big 3. That was a thing. But then a couple of years back, it kind of shifted back to, well, we're going to split up, and you got to have 2 main guys and then build around those guys. So we're back to the classic dynamic duos, the Batman and Robins of the league. And even in the season where we had some player movement, like a DeJounte Murray going to Atlanta, we've had some new dynamic duos form that are pretty interesting. So we won't rank them just yet, but give me some of your favorite duos that you would put up there.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to do a special duo really quick. This is one that is a little bit different than the other ones I'm going to name, but this one just makes sense. One of the most inviting duos in the NBA is Patrick Beverley and suspensions. It just makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I just wanted to start with that one because it just, we got to get that special one out of the way.
Oh, that is great. That is great. Well done, Montana.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I thought of that and I'm like, you know what? We got to give it a shout out. It's its own special duo. But
oh man,
talking about player wise, one of my favorite. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Thank you. We are a great duo. Thank you.
Exactly. I'd say NBA wise though, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and they've been doing this for years. I don't think that people have looked at them like as dynamic of a duo as they are, but now they are ridiculous. I mean, they are single-handedly. I believe Jaylen Brown went out with an injury, but before that, I mean, they've been single-handedly just torching teams. They are one of the best offensive duos we have seen. I think, in the last 5 years. And they've been together a pretty solid amount of time. So they just know each other, and you can tell it works. So that's my first one right there. And I think one that no one expected, that I didn't expect, would be Jeremy Grant and Damian Lillard. I think that is a duo that Jeremy Grant is having an all-time season. He is having himself a ridiculously good season. Again, Lillard, a couple of injuries kind of here and there, but he's looking great. And when they're on the court together, they do a great job of keeping it going on offense and just really working through each other and making that offense run. I don't think if they didn't have Jeremy Grant, I don't think that offense would be as solid as they are. And same goes with the defense. It translates on both sides. So those are my first two ones that come to mind when I think of great current duos.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I put them up there. When we attempt to rank these best duos, I think we're both going to have them pretty high. The Trae Young, DeJounte Murray duo in Atlanta is very interesting. They've proven that they're able to play together. It hasn't translated into huge wins for Atlanta. I mean, they're above 500. They're doing well. Maybe not as well as everybody thought, but it's still an intriguing duo. I found your duo of Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant interesting just because there's another guy you can make an argument for Portland to be that part of that duo with Dame Lillard, and that's Anthony Simons. And Dame has missed some time. You can even say Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant. I mean, those guys are interchangeable. They actually could be a decent big three. I mean, all three guys are averaging over 20 points a game, but you can interchange those guys. I think that's a good call out. One dynamic duo that I was not expecting to even mention on the show today until I just wrote it down is an improving team, one that we didn't see coming, and that's the Sacramento Kings duo of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. De'Aaron Fox is playing solid ball. Domantas Sabonis is another, as usual, a double-double machine. That's going to be an interesting duo to watch here as the Sacramento Kings, hopefully for their sake and their fans, continue to improve there. So that's another one to look at. Then you have, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo in Miami, or you can even say Jimmy and Tyler Hero, or Max. Well, I wouldn't put Max Strus that high, but he's been an improving player. But
Miami's pretty interchangeable as well with some of them. There's a lot of teams that have I wouldn't call it a big three, but they have multiple dynamic, and it just works. They have multiple duos that can work on multiple nights. So I mean, that's a great call out for sure. And then of course I'm gonna say LeBron and AD. I don't think we've seen enough of them, but since they've both been back and on the court together, they really look good. But again, you could also almost interchange that with Russ and AD, or Russ and LeBron, because we've seen them work really, really well together. Specifically, Russ and AD have really kind of found a connection that we didn't see last year, even when they played on the court. It wasn't often, but when they played, you didn't see that connection. So I would say LeBron and AD is still one of the better duos, and they absolutely could be the best if they're both healthy playing the ball that we know they can play. So LeBron and AD, but Jamal Murray and Jokic are ridiculous. They are I would say, I know we're not ranking them at this moment, but they're up there for me. I mean, they're in the top three for me in duos because they have, again, this is a duo that knows each other. They've been together and they've had a lot of success. They've seen their failures, but most of their failure has been when one of the other one has been injured or out. It's when they're on the court together, they see so much success, and it's on both. Again, this is a duo that's both ends, defense, offense. They really contribute on all ends of the game. So Jokic and Murray is a ridiculous duo that is just, in my opinion, they're up there for duos right now for sure.
Yeah, and Jamal Murray is still recovering and still finding his way back from that ACL injury, and once he gets back to form, he's a threat. I mean, he showed it a couple of years ago in the bubble, putting up, I think, 50-point games in the playoffs with that epic battle against Donovan Mitchell when he was at the Jazz. Completely agree with that. We haven't even mentioned Steph and Klay yet. They've been a duo for quite some time. I know Klay's gotten off to a slow start, but he's starting to turn on here a little bit with some better shooting here in the last week or two. But you can't deny they're still a duo, still the Splash Brothers. So I mean,
they're not going to lose that. That's they've got that connection. Again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been together their whole time playing pretty much. They know each other, they know the system. And so even with Klay not really showing up so much quite yet, he is starting to catch fire, and we're seeing a little bit more of, vintage classic Klay. So that's nice to see. But they're definitely still that duo. But then another one, Desmond Bane, I believe, has missed a couple of games. Desmond Bane.
I just wrote that down. Yes.
I mean, I think they've got next. When we talk about duos, and there's another duo that that I also am going to mention next. It also has next, but I would say that Bane and Morant are just a ridiculous combo. And we saw that last year, but we did not see what we're seeing out of them this year together. They've been great players, but I mean, Desmond Bane especially is just on a tear. He has shown up. He has arrived. I think he is a kind of at least in my opinion, a better player than I thought he was going to be. So that's a duo.
Sure.
And then Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are just ridiculous. Again, that is another, and I'm going to say this is a pretty big claim. I think they're going to go down as a better duo than Kyrie and LeBron did in Cleveland. I really do. I think they're going to have more success. I think they're going to have more success as a duo because LeBron and Kyrie had success, but it was together, but it really wasn't. I think Garland and Mitchell understand the game and each other a little bit more and might see eye to eye more. And that makes a big difference. That'll make one championship turn into 2 or 3. So I think they're going to end up being, especially on the offensive side of the ball, they are, I think, going to be Cleveland's best duo of all time whenever they leave the team, whenever that might be. I think they'll leave the team being one of the best duos they've seen, if not the best.
Well, you put some pretty high praise on him, Montana. I mean, for them to be a better duo, I mean, don't forget Kyrie and LeBron led the Cavs to a championship. So basically, you're putting that pressure on those guys, saying Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, you can bring a title, bring another title to Cleveland. I mean, that's how I'd read it. But
yeah, they're getting 2 or 3 together in Cleveland.
I have to go back to what Smoke just said about Spike Lee and John Starks. I got a better duo for you, Smoke. Spike Lee and Reggie Miller. That's a duo. That's a duo. What else? We have, well, what about, so John and Desmond Bane, a great call on that. I actually wrote that down just before you said that. Desmond Bane's playing like he wants to be an all-star this year, and he very well can get there. What about Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards in Minnesota? I mean, it's not as sexy as some of the other duos that we talked about, but, when those guys are on, I mean, that's a talented duo right there.
The problem is I think Cat, I'm not going to say we've seen his game decline, but he doesn't look like he's fully there right now. But Anthony Edwards absolutely is, and he's kind of growing into his own in the NBA. And once they're like, once I think they really click, that Minnesota team has been a little bit lackluster in my opinion, just as a whole. They've not been bad. They just have not performed as well as I think people expected them to early on. But they could still be that team. Again, it's still early. But no, I think that is a duo that we will see just continue to get better and better and better, and they will be one of the top duos if they're both back. So that is absolutely a good duo because they're both super talented guys, and they're super talented together. That's the thing. They really work. A lot of these duos we have mentioned seem to really just flow and work, and we haven't seen that in the past. Even with some of the best duos, it's not always an eye-to-eye, communication relationship that they have. But a lot of these duos we're mentioning have been together for a minute. When we talk about like Jokic and Murray, they've been together for a while. Steph and Clay have been together probably longer than any duo has been that's still together. I would say.
Yeah, we've mentioned. Yeah, absolutely.
So just keeping that together and winning a championship in the last 3 years together is that's huge for them. So they're definitely still in the conversation as some of the best.
Well, there's a bunch of talented duos that we haven't even mentioned yet. I mean, there's it wouldn't be an episode of Well Beyond the Arc if we didn't mention the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, there's KD and Kyrie. I mean, say what you will about them. When we talk strictly basketball and talent on the floor, those two together, they're as talented as any duo in the league. If we're just talking straight duos, Kyrie and KD. There's Joel Embiid and James Harden. Again, from a talent standpoint, they're up there as well. Even though I think James Harden kind of slows that team down. And as Charles Barkley says, dribble, 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 dribble. But you can't deny it. They're a great duo. A duo that's talented. I wouldn't put them above some of the other ones that we've talked about are from my Bulls, and that's DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. They were one of the more higher scoring duos last season. I mean, LaVine's still trying to run himself back into form after off-season knee surgery, but they're up there. We talked about LeBron and AD. We haven't even mentioned, and I think that because these guys have barely been on the floor because they can't seem to stay healthy, Kawhi and Paul George. When those two guys are fully healthy, those guys are right up there. Luka and Cuban. Well, you know what, Ghost? That's the only possible duo we can get from the Mavericks because I don't know who else Luka's teaming with over there. But yeah, Luka and Cuban, put them on the list. Who else have we missed? You guys have viewers out there? Anybody else that we've missed?
I've got one that I've not mentioned quite yet, and again, it's one that we wouldn't have really expected to say, but I would say that it is, even though this team is starting to come back to earth, this is still two players that have helped reach this success, and that's Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. I would say that they are a pretty solid duo, but that's also a team that has a lot of interchangeable players that you could say that's a good duo, that's a good duo. So I would say that they're a really explosive duo, especially on the offensive side. And then one that I want to say that again might not be super considered, by some people a duo, but I consider it a duo, is Giannis and Brook Lopez. I think that they've been putting up really solid numbers when they're on the court together, when they're not on the court together. It's just those are two players, especially on the defensive end. Lopez is having himself a great season. I think it's like 2.9 blocks per game right now, and that's pretty big. I mean, he's been around for a minute. He used to wear the purple and gold way back when, not very successfully, but that was a what was that, like 2016? I don't know when that was. I just remember he was a Laker and it didn't really go anywhere. But he's a player that just seems to keep
True.
playing really well even as he ages.
Well, that's a great comment there. You can put Giannis in. Well, when Chris Middleton comes back, I mean, we have
That's
to
going to be
mention
the
Giannis
duo.
and Chris Middleton.
That's
But right now, you can even say Giannis and Drew Holiday. That's a great call
oh,
out.
Jrue Holiday.
Brook Lopez is playing well. I think he's leading the NBA in blocks right now too.
Yeah, he's
So good call there. And a potential up and coming duo that's not there yet, but we're somebody to keep an eye on in the future is the Pacers duo of Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin. I mean, we talked about Halliburton last time, averaging 20 and 10. Benedict Mathurin is up there for Rookie of the Year. They're right there with Paolo Banchero. I mean, that could be a potential duo for the future there.
yeah.
Only
Close.
112 years old. He looks good for 112. Smoke. Brook Lopez does. I'm trying to think with Toronto. You got Siakam, but Toronto's one of those teams like Miami that you can interchange Siakam and Scotty Barnes, Siakam and Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby. I don't know if there's a duo there that we can put up there with these guys. Great players, solid team, but I don't know if there's a duo we can put there.
One more that I would say that we haven't really talked about, and again, this team hasn't had a lot of success, so it's kind of easy to overshoot even when there is a good duo. But that would be the Rockets with Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. I think
There you go.
that is a really good. That is, like you said, one of the younger up and coming ones, because I think we've mentioned the ones that have been together for years, but there's also ones that are just getting together and just learning how they play. And those are the most dangerous ones, because before you know it, those will be the ones we're talking about that have been playing for years together and that are on top. So I think that this could be the only way the Rockets are going to regain where they want to get to is with these players. I think these are key players into the Rockets having at least a successful playoff future. I think that these are the guys for that.
Well, one more duo, which another potential interchangeable duo. We haven't even talked about the New Orleans Pelicans yet. You got Zion, who's actually playing most of the games. He's staying relatively healthy. You can put Zion and Brandon Ingram. You can put Zion and CJ McCollum, or you can even put McCollum and Brandon Ingram there. So that's another team we haven't talked about. You mentioned the Rockets. I'm not sure if there's anybody else. Cleveland, we talked about. The Knicks, Julius Randle and RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
I don't know if I put them above any of these other guys on the list here. I think we've covered everybody. Now the tough part is we got to figure out a way to rank these guys. We've been throwing mud to the wind. I don't even know if that's a saying, but I'm saying it today. Just throwing stuff on to see what sticks. Should we try to come up with our top 5 duos here on the fly?
Yeah. Let's. That sounds good. You go. You got it, man. You start us off. You got it.
Thanks. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go with number 5, and I might regret where I put these guys, but Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. They got to be in my top 5 right now. Ja Morant, MVP candidate last year, MVP candidate again this year. But the difference here is Desmond Bane, who had doubled his scoring output last year and proved that he's a solid defender. Great shooter, by the way, very underrated shooter. Could be a 50, 40, 90 guy. Has even taken his game to another level here in his third year. 30th pick in the draft a couple of years back. No one expected much out of this guy, and all he's doing is averaging around 25 points per game as the Grizzlies' number 2 scorer, poised to make his first All-Star game. That's my number 5.
That's a great number 5. I'm gonna go a little bit. Are we going back? You want to do just one and
Let's
then
just go back and forth. Five,
five?
five. We'll both give 5. We both give 4, and so on.
Sweet. So my 5 is, and here's the thing. The reason they're at my 5, I believe they can be in the top 3, but they have not played enough this season together yet to show that they're that. But I gotta keep LeBron and AD in the top 5. They're not up higher because they haven't played enough, but just because of who they are when they're playing together and what we have seen, I'm gonna go 5 is the LeBron and AD, because that is gonna be super scary if they keep getting healthier and just coming back like they should. So yeah, LeBron and AD are my 5.
James Dolan and Charles Oakley. Yes. Yes. Well, how about this one? Lou Williams and the Wings from Magic City in Atlanta. How's that for another duo? No, that's not gonna be my number 4. But those are the type of duos we want to see from you guys. Well done. Well done. Man, number 4. Number 4. That's tough. There's a lot of great duos out there. I wanted to put. I'm gonna go with the Joker and Jamal Murray. It might be a little bit of a stretch at 4, but I'm going off of potentially what Jamal Murray is gonna be when he's back to form, and what I've seen from those two before. Joker's a 2-time MVP. Jamal Murray, a combo point and shooting guard. Again, can erupt for 50 at any time. That's gonna be my number 4 for right now.
That's a solid number 4. Yeah, so my number 4, I'm gonna go with, man, again, it is tough, but I'm going with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I think that they are a duo that is only going to continue to play better together, and I think by the time we come back after All-Star break, they could easily be in the top 3 without a doubt. So I just think, again, that's a duo that needs to play a little bit longer together to be higher up on the list, but they are a threat, and they've brought Cleveland back to life. Cleveland's been going and building, but those are the two players that are bringing it back to life. So I'm going with Garland and Mitchell at my number 4 spot.
Okay. Not bad. I thought about them for my 4 and in some of these other spots, but for number 3, I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid and James Harden. And the only reason I'm going, just the talent of those two guys together. I don't know if they're necessarily a fit, but they are a hell of a duo. I wouldn't want to go against them when they're clicking together. They're very hard to stop. I mean, Joel Embiid's one of the top 5 players in the NBA. James Harden, a guy that's going to get you 20-some points, 10 assists, ball dominant, but from a talent standpoint, having to defend against those guys, that's not something I'd want to do. So I'm putting those guys at number 3 for me.
Perfect. That's a great number 3. So sitting right at my number 3, this, again, it's not the easiest list to make, but I definitely feel confident having Desmond Bane and Ja Morant at my number 3 spot. Again, I think my only reason that they're not 1 or 2 is because, again, we've seen, Bane has had some injuries. Morant has a history with having some injuries, but, with certain things he does, certain way he lands. So I just think that they need to play together a little bit more to solidify their spot, but they're definitely a solid duo, and they're my number 3.
All right, so we're at number 2 here. For my number 2, again, I'm going off of talent. I'm going off of, if I have to defend these guys, good luck to me. Number 2, I'm going with KD and Kyrie. When they're on the court together from an offensive standpoint, they are some of the most talented guys in the league, and putting them on the same team, man, good luck. Good luck. I mean, a lot of the Brooklyn Nets success, limited success, is because strictly from KD and Kyrie. They need a little more help from their supporting cast, which they've gotten lately. But as far as a duo goes, I'm going with KD and Kyrie for right now.
One of the best. It's unfortunate that situation isn't playing out better, because they definitely are 2 of the most talented players in the NBA that we've seen. So, great pick, definitely. I definitely see where they are at. And they were just outside of mine just because, honestly, I don't know. I'm still not convinced that they're going to be on the same team for the whole season. Maybe that's going to, remain, but they're on the outside looking in for me, but they're a great duo. My number 2 is going to be Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think that they are, again, they've been together for a minute. They know each other. They have been scorching the Eastern Conference, and they've stayed pretty consistently on top of the Eastern Conference, or at least the top half, since they've started playing together. So other than that little period of time where Kyrie was on that team and it was kind of a circus and there was a lot of craziness going on we don't even probably know all of it, that kind of overshadowed what that duo was. But ever since Kyrie has not been a distraction on that team to us or to them, we've seen them come into their own. So they are 2 of the best, and putting them together, watch out.
Yeah. Well, we're at our number 1, and you're kind of doing this on the fly. We might have some buyer's remorse, but my number one actually is the Boston Celtics duo of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for all the reasons you said. Um, they're young. They're under contract for a while. Jason Tatum is an MVP candidate. Jaylen Brown is one of the better two-way players in the league. Both very versatile. They're both about 6'7", 6'8", can guard multiple positions. Both can shoot the three. Both can take you off the dribble. Both are gamers, man, and they're only getting better. And they're still young. I mean, I think they're both around 25, if 25. Scary duo. So for me, that's the top duo for me in the NBA this season so far.
Yeah, that's a great call. They definitely are showing that they're the best. That they've worked their way up for sure. So they're great. That's a good duo. And then my number one, I believe, was your number 3 or 4. It was Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I think
Yep,
that
my
they're
number
the
4. Yep.
best. And my biggest thing is, do I think, any of the duos that we talked about in our top fives, realistically, we could have our list change. Maybe we come back and we revisit this towards the end of the season and we just see what we're looking at duos by then, because it could change. But as of now, Murray and Jokic are definitely they're getting to the point where they've played together for a really solid amount of time, and you can just tell how they play. It doesn't matter how many points they average, any of that. It's just the way that team flows is through those two, and that's because of their chemistry. So you can't beat that. You have to have really great chemistry for a duo to really, really meet, the peak success you can get. So I've definitely got them, but all the duos we mentioned are just up there and just super talented.
Yeah, and there might be even a couple that we missed. I mean, CP3 when he's healthy, and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. I think I'd rather go with the Suns backcourt there. We both came up with some solid duos. For me, just outside the list of my top 5 were the Lakers duo, LeBron and AD, the Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, of course, and then a tough omission for me was, and you had him in your top 5, was Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. So some solid duos here, but no, I think it's that we should take a look at this later on in the season, see how we feel. Who knows? There might be some injuries. There might be some guys coming back from injury. Things might shift around. We'll see how it goes. So good stuff, though. Speaking of good stuff, we're going to get into everyone's favorite segment on this show. Montana is getting himself psyched, and so should you. It's another episode, or another edition, of NBA Player Or. And if you've been watching us the last couple of weeks, you know that Montana is on a tear. He's gotten a couple 5 out of 5s in a row. Got a 4 mixed in with a 4 out of 5. So I think he's something around the lines of 19 or no, math, 12 of his last 15. No, that's 14 of his last 15, something like that. That's why I was never a math major. But anyway, neither here nor there. If you are a regular here on Well Beyond the Arc, you know how the game is played. But if you're a newbie, we're going to go over the rules again anyway. Each week, I give Montana the name of 5 individuals, and he has to tell me whether or not that person is a current or former NBA player or someone that has done something else for a living, somebody from a different profession. And that something else could be anywhere from a figure skater to a European politician to a famous skateboarder to who knows? It's basically whatever I come up with in my deluded head week after week. But so far, especially the last 3 weeks, Montana has been on fire. Montana, well, before we get into my question for you, each time that I ask Montana, is this an NBA player or somebody else, and he gets the question right, you will hear this sound. Victory! Thank you once again, Johnny Drama, staple here on Well Beyond the Arc. And if he gets it wrong, you will hear this sound. I don't know if there is a more appropriate sound that goes along with something other than wah, 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 wah. All right, Montana, how you feeling today, buddy?
This is my heat check.
This is your heat check.
My heat check. I think I can go 5 for 5 again, but I've got I don't know. I think I can go 5 for 5.
Okay.
I think I can piece 3 together.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Have you been watching the World Cup or following the World Cup at all?
Oh, yeah.
Then you might not do so well here, because today's NBA player or is NBA player or NFL kicker.
Okay. Well,
there's some kicking involved. There's kicking in the World Cup. There's kicking in the NFL. Just wanted to throw you off there a little bit. See, just make sure you're on your toes. All right. Well, let's see how you do. 14 out of your last 15. Let's just dive right in. Name number 1. Montana, is this the name of an NBA player, current or former, or a current or former NFL kicker? The name is Matt Bryant.
I'm
Matt
gonna go with
Bryant.
kicker.
Victory!
Matt Bryant, that's correct. Matt Bryant, no relation to the late Kobe Bryant, kicked in the NFL from 2002 to 2019, mostly with the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. His claim to fame is he's 12th all-time in NFL history in field goals made. Go figure. All right, 1 for 1. Let's get to number 2. Montana, is this the name of an NBA player, current or former NFL kicker? The name is Gravis Vasquez. Gravis Vasquez.
I'm gonna go with NBA player.
Victory!
That would be a good move. Gravis Vasquez, a former backup point guard from 2010 to 2017, played in 401 career games, mostly with the Memphis Grizzlies and New Orleans Pelicans, averaging 9 points per game and 4.8 assists per game. The man is 16 of his last 17, including 2 of 2 tonight. Let's keep it continuous, Sammy Sosa once said. Name number 3. Is this an NBA player or NFL kicker? The name is Tracy Murray. Tracy Murray.
I'm gonna go with. Oh, this might be the one that gets me. I'm gonna go with kicker.
No, Tracy Murray is a former NBA player, played in the league from 1993 to 2004, averaged 9 points per game in 656 career games. And he's also been a gentleman we've said before, or one of the questions on NBA player or in the past. I don't remember if you got it right or wrong, but all right, let's start a new streak. Name number 4. Is this an NBA player or NFL kicker? The name is Josh Brown. Josh Brown.
See, sometimes I okay, let me think. No, I can't. Okay, well, I'm gonna go kicker.
Victory!
When all else fails, screw it, he's a kicker. Josh Brown kicked in the NFL from 1999 to 2010, mostly with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans. He is tied for 48th all-time field goal makes. All right, let's get to the 5th and final name. Is this an NBA player or an NFL kicker? The name is Jason Hanson. Jason Hanson.
Like this could be a plumber. Like these are names I just can't even. I can't even. I'm trying to do word association and I can't. NBA. No, kicker. And just put the first one, NBA.
Were you sure?
Can I change my answer? I've never done that before.
All right. Jay hasn't played the sound yet. We need your final answer.
Kicker.
Victory!
Another first. Jason Hanson may be a plumber right now, may not be, but he's not in the NFL anymore. Kicked in the NFL from 1992 to 2012, all with the Detroit Lions. He is 4th all-time in NFL history with 495 career made field goals. Well, look, you might not have gotten the 5 for 5, but 4 out of 5 is pretty damn good, which takes you to 18 of your last 20, which is insane at a game that you've told me many times that you just take wild guesses a lot of the time. So that brings you to 92 out of 125 all time. Next week's NBA player very well may be NBA player or plumber. That's a great idea. I'm going to write that down before I forget. All right. Well, let's take a quick break for a word from the Yankee and the Brit.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay from Yankee and the Brit telling you to come over and check out our shows. The Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk, Well Beyond the Arc, the Markout Podcast, Flagrant and Foul, Real Talk with Jay, and MMA Underground Weekly at YouTube/The Yankee and the Brit. Deuces.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, be sure to check that out, everybody. Some great shows on the Yankee and the Brit Sports Network. man, I very well might do NBA player or plumber. I don't know any famous plumbers, but that's gonna take some work on my part. But anyway, let's get on to our next segment. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly for this week. A lot to choose from. So let's just dive into it. Montana, what was your good from this week?
Yeah, so I don't want to seem like I'm pulling too much from my boys, but I've got to give a shout out to AD because again, he has been playing. It's not even just him as a Laker. If he was on any other team, I would be like, this is insane. This would be my good no matter what team he was playing for. The fact that he's putting up numbers that are legendary and he's matching, like former Lakers legends in certain statistical feats is just ridiculous. It's amazing. So AD is my good and by a lot. I just hope that he is not showing too much glass right now because we know he's glass man and but other than that, other than a few moments of that, he's looked great. So AD is my good.
I mean, I think this is the AD that everybody was expecting when the Lakers got him, right? I mean, yeah, they won the chip in 2020, injuries, but I think if he can stay healthy and be on the, his versatile skill set, man, I mean, averaging 32 and 20, that's insane. Great good there. I could have picked a number of ones, but here's a stat line from someone I didn't expect, and I'm not sure anyone expected, but Ivica Zubac of the Los Angeles Clippers had a game the other day where he scored 31 points and had 29 rebounds. 29 rebounds from a guy that's, maybe averaging 10 points, 7 rebounds a game. A guy that's had some talent, just, has always been an afterthought. He's a former Laker. He's been solid with the Clippers, don't get me wrong. But the fact that he got 31 and 29 and did it, I think, on 16 of 20, no, like 14 of 18 shooting, something like that. I think only missed a couple of shots. Great stat line for Ivica Zubac. What about your bad this week, Montana?
So my bad is, and again, it makes me my bad makes me a little happy. I'm not gonna lie, because my bad is the Clippers injury situation. The Clippers are a team where that injury bug is running just rampant. You've got your stars out, and then you've got your really pretty solid, important role players. You've got a couple role players that are also out. So it is, I believe, John Wall is also at least expected to be out until after tomorrow's game. So you have a lot of people that are out, and these are your players you need. I mean, you definitely need Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. It is a little concerning that Kawhi Leonard is seeming to be a little bit slow to come back after another injury. So it's just, I think there's a couple of problems there, and that Clippers team that everyone expects to be the team of LA if the Lakers can't show up, I don't think they're going to be that team if they don't have those guys. So the Clippers injury situation is kind of ongoing, and it's only really getting worse. So that's my bad. And Clippers are overrated. Absolutely. So are the Warriors.
Shots fired. I'm waiting for the next comment before I say anything. There's got to be a comment there coming about that. All right. Well, anyway, my bad for this week. It's actually a good, but that turned out bad. It's one of the duos we just talked about, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. They combined for 83 points in a game last week, with Trae Young scoring 44 and DeJounte Murray scoring 39. They combined for 83 points, and they lost to Houston, one of the worst teams record-wise in the league. You can't have that type of potent backcourt putting up those type of numbers. There's smoke. There we go. You can't have that type of duo putting out that type of number and losing to a team like the Houston Rockets, especially if you're an Eastern Conference contender like the Atlanta Hawks. Just can't happen. So even though it was a good performance, it was a bad performance. That's my bad for the week. What about the ugly for you?
So my ugly, we talked about them a little bit. We've talked about the more other shows than we have tonight, but that's the Utah Jazz. They're starting to come back to earth. They had a really awful week. I don't even know if they won a game last week. They did not. They had a terrible week. They're starting to look like the Utah Jazz that we expected. They're still, I believe, in the top 8 or top 10. They didn't fall out of that, but still, they're starting to come back to earth. And I mean, the Western Conference is separated by such little amounts game-wise. It is a dogfight in the Western Conference ranking-wise. But I would say that the Jazz are starting to look more like the Jazz people expected, and they're really just starting to come back down to earth. And losing that many games when you've built up that confidence, it goes away when you lose that many games. So we very well could see a less confident Jazz going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw a stat that a week ago today, they were first in the West. And today, after losing to the Bulls, they're 9th A live thumb wrestling match between Smoke and Montana. Jay, I think that's the comment.
Yeah,
I think that's the comment of the show so far. A live thumb wrestling match. But no, great call on Utah. I still think they're going to be a tough out, game in and game out. But no, you're right. They came back down to earth. My ugly. I was going to talk about injuries, and I was going to talk about the Clippers injuries that you mentioned in your bad. I was going to talk about the Gordon Hayward injury with his shoulder when it was rumored that he was going to be trade bait and that supposedly the Hornets made him play through the injury. Okay. I got to bring up the Pat Bev versus DeAndre Ayton situation since we
that was
get a
almost
chance to
mine.
talk about it.
Yeah.
It's much to do about nothing. Pat Beverly was sticking up for his guy. I mean, DeAndre Ayton should not have been standing over Austin Reeves. I mean, DeAndre Ayton's talking so much trash for no reason. And Pat Bev just went and defended his guy, but it looked a lot worse than what it was. But pushing over somebody, like it looked like a elementary school recess where you push some guy over another guy to trip him, make him fall. Man, just that whole situation with Pat Bev getting 3 games as suspension. I don't know if it warranted 3 games. I would agree with a 1-game suspension, but the Pat Bev DeAndre Ayton situation for me was the ugly. Not that ugly, but I had to pick something this week.
Yeah, and that's a great ugly. That was almost my ugly. That was almost mine because that was ugly. That was really just, it doesn't make us look good for where we're trying to go. As a Lakers fan, I do think that Ayton and even Booker might have been saying some stuff. And again, the league said they're investigating the whole situation, this and that, whatever. It's not going to go that far. It's not some malice at the palace. It was just a little players scuff. It wasn't a big deal. They're not going to look into it too much. But I definitely think that it is a negative for both sides. The Lakers are trying to get back to where they need to get, and I think the Suns are kind of losing their place. So why would you want to look some type of way on either side? So it looks bad for everybody.
Yeah, not needed, but I will give Pat Bev this. At least he's sticking up for his guy. The execution might not have been great, but I'll give credit for him sticking up to his guy. All right, well, running out of time here. We've got a couple quick hitters here. As much as we talk about our favorite, and I can't be more sarcastic about that, our favorite team, the Brooklyn Nets, and then there's the defending champion Golden State Warriors with good reason. Both have gotten off to slow starts, but both of them seem to be turning a quarter slowly. Steve Kerr went on record in an interview saying that, at one point when the Warriors, were struggling, hadn't had a road win yet, saying that he had failed due to a lack of execution, getting his team ready, grit, things of that nature. They've since turned it around. They're back above 500. The Brooklyn Nets, with everything that's gone on with the Kyrie Irving suspension, with everybody calling for Ben Simmons to do better, that whole situation, the soap opera that is the Brooklyn Nets, don't look now. They're back at 500. Now, granted, 500, 11-10, 11-11, better than my Bulls, better than your Lakers, but from where they were just a couple weeks ago, that's saying something. And maybe they are turning a corner. Of those 2 teams, Montana, which are you more impressed by coming out of the hole, the Warriors or the Brooklyn Nets?
The Warriors shouldn't be in a hole. They just won a championship. It's ridiculous that they were even in a hole. So when I look at this, good for the Warriors. I've kind of dogged on them a little bit the last few shows, not because I have a personal problem with them, but because they just won a championship and they started the season pretty well below 500 for the little beginning half of it. And they're kind of starting to pick it back up, but they shouldn't be in a hole. And I think the biggest reason they're in the hole is because they didn't go after their offseason correctly. I don't think they completely looked at the offseason, in the whole picture. They'd won a championship. They wanted Poole back. They wanted Wiggins. They didn't think they needed those other role players. And I think they jumped the gun with how they did that. So the Warriors, yeah, it's great to see that. But when we talk about impressive, the Brooklyn Nets, for how crappy that team really is, not even just on the court, off the court, they're piecing things together and doing things that are just ridiculous. They're doing things, and it's because of the greatness of Kevin Durant. So I'm more impressed with Kevin Durant and the Nets by far. But who do I think will go farther? The Warriors. They better go farther. But who am I more impressed with? Absolutely the Nets, for getting out of the hole, because you had a coach turnover, you had all this stuff, and now you're looking like the team that at least your fans deserve to see some of the time.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, I agree. The Warriors are defending champs. Everybody's expecting them to go to be good, to compete again and defend that title. Um, yeah, I'm with you. I'm not impressed. I expect them to crawl out of that hole. I expect them to be one of the best teams in the West, and they look like they're hitting their stride a little bit. They got to keep it going. But yeah, of course, it's the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, like you said, Steve Nash got fired. They have interim coach Jacques Vaughn. There was the idea that they're going to bring in Ime Udoka as their coach, which, I think from a PR standpoint, just with everything else that is a dumpster fire that is Brooklyn Nets, was a good move of not doing that. The Kyrie Irving suspension, the drama around Ben Simmons not being back to form, injuries. I mean, look at this Brooklyn Nets team now. They're getting Seth Curry is a player coming back that's been solid. Joe Harris is slowly getting into form. Ben Simmons is actually getting back into his career form, basically where he's been his whole career as far as numbers wise. Kyrie's back and he's balling, and I can't agree more with the whole Kevin Durant thing. I think he is averaging. I think he's among the league leaders in minutes, and he's one of the few players in the league that's averaging 30 points per game. And who knows where the Brooklyn Nets would be without Kevin Durant? So, good calls there. And then last thing we want to get to, big name finally getting picked up, and that's the Dallas Mavericks signing Kemba Walker. I don't know if it's a 10-day. I don't know how that situation's working out, but there is reports that the Mavericks have signed Kemba Walker. Montana, big deal, little deal, and does Kemba have anything left to give?
I think it's I think that's the perfect fit for him. And, I think that Luka needs players like Kemba around him to help strengthen that team as a whole. Luka can't play the whole game. He's played pretty darn close a couple of games, but he can't play the whole game. Luka needs to be able to stay healthy. And if he's running the court, running the floor too much, you're not going to see that. So getting a player like Kemba, who we've seen him strengthen second units, we've seen him strengthen first units. No matter where he's put in that lineup, he is going to strengthen. Is he going to put up monster numbers, early numbers that he had in his career? Probably not, but we're going to see that because that is one player that has plenty left to give. I'm so happy he got picked up.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was always a fan of Kemba Walker, going back to his days at UConn. The multi-overtime game against, I think it was Syracuse in the last Big East championship or Big East tournament. And then, he had some great years with the Charlotte Hornets. I think he's still the Charlotte Hornets all-time leading scorer. Had a couple great seasons. His last 2 seasons in Charlotte were amazing. Great pickup for the Celtics, but the knee injury just didn't work out. I mean, solid, but didn't work out. Played a little bit with the Knicks, but they had all these different guards as well. I think it's a low risk, high reward for the Mavericks to see what Kemba Walker has left. He's not relatively old. I think he's 32, 33 tops. Yeah. Can still shoot, and Luka needs all the help he can get. He also has to trust his teammates a little bit more, but I think it's a solid move for the Mavericks to take a flyer on Kemba Walker, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, nearing the end of our episode 26 here on Well Beyond the Arc, we appreciate you joining us. But if you want to catch us elsewhere, we do have some other projects that we're working on, and Montana's got his hands full. So Montana, what else you have going on where our listeners and viewers can catch your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple other shows I'm working on. One of them is called The Connor and Heffernan Show. And that's when me and my buddy started last year. And we kind of did like 6 episodes, took time off, but we're starting to do it again. It's kind of a complete overlook of, you can see college football, college basketball, baseball, hockey. It's all in there. And we just released an episode on Saturday or Sunday, and that one is actually just football. Our last 2 episodes, we focused in on football, and that last episode, we focused in on rival weekend for college football. We focused in on the Huskers hiring their new head coach, and then we looked at the NFL and looked at a lot of stuff, and we talked about who we thought would win MVP. So we just kind of cover a lot of different topics. You can find us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is at The Connor and Heffernan Show, and then you can also find us on Spotify, and you can also find us on TikTok. I post daily TikTok videos. I have a little segment I do called On This Date, and I pick a random thing that happened. Today it was the CFL championship or some CFL game where Doug Flutie had himself a game. So it's just random stuff, and you can find us on TikTok at The Connor and Heffernan Show. And then I have another project called Purple and Gold Zone that I've been taking some time off of because I was pretty sick the last few weeks, but I'm going to get that started again, and that is on Spotify. It's a complete Lakers show. And then I've got another one, Video Game Talk, but I'm not sure. I don't know if that one might not keep going, but you can find our first episode out on YouTube at Video Game Talk.
All right. Best of luck all the way around with those. And yeah, his Lakers podcast, folks. it's entertaining. He goes a little bit more uncensored there. He rips into these guys. It's good stuff. Well, you can find my work on my website, my blog website. It's called the Sports Page Blog, and you can find that at thesportspageblog.com. Just released a new blog yesterday about legendary, and I'm going to say legendary, play-by-play announcer Kevin Harlan. It's been a announcer for the NFL and the NBA, and both the NCAA and both basketball and football for quite some time. He's got some zingers, and there's some videos I've posted on that blog that are all timers that you won't want to miss. And just a little appreciation blog for Kevin Harlan, why we must protect him at all costs. So be sure to check that out. Again, the sportspageblog.com. As for us, we appreciate you guys joining us here on Well Beyond the Arc. Stay tuned next time. We don't know what time or what day we'll be on, but that's why we want you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we won't have to keep chasing you guys. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.